this video, I'm going to be going through every single aesthetic on the Aesthetics Wiki, including subcategories, because I'm insane. To make things easier, I've divided everything into 15 categories: academia, art history and movements, stereotypes and character tropes, design and visuals, fashion, emotions and vibes, fiction genres, time periods and historical events/eras, locations, settings, and national cultures, music, nature, seasonal, single subject focused, internet and technology, and miscellaneous for things that I couldn't fit in any of the categories. It was hard to organize them, so you probably won't agree with where everything is placed, but I did the best that I could. Nearly all of the descriptions, information, and images used in this video come from the Aesthetics Wiki, and the Aesthetics Wiki does change a lot, so it may not be 100% accurate to what it is now. For right now, it is accurate to May of 2025. If you want to know more about a specific aesthetic, you can look it up on the wiki. I also have linked in the description the spreadsheet I created for this video, which includes many wiki entries that have since been deleted. I don't make any money from YouTube, so if you would like to support me and my work, the easiest way to do so would be by going to my link tree in the description and buying one of my 2 albums on Bandcamp or my novella on Lulu. You can access all of them for free if you want, I just obviously won't get any money from it. Also, one more thing, if you hear this sound effect, it means that it's a personal favorite of mine. I know you don't care, I'm just doing it for fun. I apologize for the long intro, and I promise that there won't be any other promos or interruptions throughout the video. Please enjoy!
The first category centers around real-life stereotypes and fictional character tropes. I've also included subcultures that aren't only based around music or fashion, since a lot of these also have stereotypes associated with them. And just as a warning, there are a lot of these. I'm going to start off with the most famous ones that you probably know, and then work my way down to the more obscure ones, like an iceberg chart, because chances are if you're watching this video then you probably like those. I also grouped most of the aesthetics surrounding mythical and folklore creatures in this category due to them being technically character tropes. That being said, we're going to start off with fairycore. Fairycore is an aesthetic originating from the 2020s that is also known as fairywave or nymphcore. Elfcore is considered the masculine equivalent. Key motifs are wings, sparkles, and pixie/fairy dust. Mermaid or mermaidcore centers around mermaids. The masculine term is merman, and merfolk is the plural or gender-neutral term. Key motifs are fish scales, shells, pearls, coral, waves, bubbles, and mermaid tails. Siren or sirencore is a darker version of the mermaidcore aesthetic based on sirens, who are associated with the mythology that they lure sailors to drown. Pink mermaid is just a hyper-feminine version of the mermaid aesthetic. Vampire, also known as vampirecore or any other folklorical names such as vampire, strigoi, nosferatu, etc., is self-explanatory, it just focuses on vampires. Key motifs are bats, blood, teeth, nighttime, extravagance, gothic horror, and innocence. If there are any vampires watching this video, HMU, haha. That was a joke. I know that they're not real, obviously. Werewolf, lycanthrope, lycanthropus, lobus home, you already know what this is. Half human, half wolf, associated with night, the full moon, fangs, claws, moving on. Wizardcore surrounds magic, fantasy, and a taste for discovery and exploration. Key motifs are wizard staffs, walking sticks, books, cloaks, hourglasses, glass baubles and trinkets, globes, maps, mirrors, succulents, gems, stones, brooches, scrolls, candles, notebooks, and rustic items. Dwarf is an aesthetic based around dwarves, a creature commonly found in the folklores of Germanic and Nordic cultures. There are various depictions of dwarves, but the modern dwarf is associated with technology, mining, and living underground. Key motifs are mining, beer, and beards. Magician is exactly what it sounds like. It's an aesthetic centered around stage magicians and magic shows, coupled with a theme of grandiose performances, elaborate illusions, and magic tricks. It may also be referred to as magician core, stage magician core, magic show core, and illusionist core. Racing, racer, motorsports, and a variety of other names is just an aesthetic centered around auto racing. The aesthetic is not simply the cars themselves, nor just anyone who drives them, but a specific style and attitude associated with the world of racing. A mad scientist is defined as a scientist who uses their knowledge for evil or utilizes villainy to support their research. Key themes of being a mad scientist are hubris, experimentation, eschewing morality for knowledge, and destruction. A jock, athlete, or sportsman is a popular high school stereotype, style, and cultural trend originating from the 60s surrounding athleticism, sportsmanship, and an active lifestyle. They're usually depicted as bullies in media, but they don't have to be. Key motifs are sports uniforms, athletic gear, letterman jackets, sneakers, and athletic physique. Nerd, also known as academia, academic culture, or bookworm, is just people who really like academic subjects, especially math and science. You probably already know what a nerd is. They're associated with prescribed glasses, suspenders, bow ties, high white socks, long or short button-down shirts, slacks, braces, dress shoes, buck teeth, and being unfashionable. Geek, also known as techcore, technology culture, or technology enthusiast, is a stereotype that apparently dates all the way back to the 1870s? Is that true? It refers to someone obsessed with a hobby or an intellectual pursuit, usually technology, and is usually perceived as overly intellectual, unfashionable, boring, or socially awkward. The difference between geeks and nerds is that geeks obsess over a specific hobby or fandom, while nerds focus on school subjects like math, science, etc. However, I don't really care about the difference because I'm still going to call my best friend a nerd for being a diehard Doctor Who fan. Common motifs are t-shirts with fictional characters on them, baggy pants, sneakers, comfortableness, and plainness. Geek chic was a fashion trend in the mid-2000s in which young people adopted quote-unquote geeky fashions, such as oversized horn-rimmed glasses, suspenders, braces, and high-water trousers. Preppy, prep, or J-preppy, which is the Japanese version, is short for preparatory and is associated with old private Northeastern University preparatory schools. It's mostly a high school stereotype, but is also a fashion style. Key themes are elitism/narcissism, opulence, enforcement of the corporate establishment/status quo, liberalism/conservatism, success, status, the college-age life, and professionalism. Obviously, if you dress preppy, that doesn't automatically mean that you're a narcissist or a diehard capitalist or whatever. You get the point. Bro, also known as gym bro, bro culture, and jock culture, refers to young men who spend time partying with others like themselves. Common motifs are fraternity culture, masculinity, elitism/narcissism, status, and collegiate life. I'd argue that gym bros are a different thing, as those are just guys who are really into going into the gym, and there's no association with parties or frats, but whatever. A tomboy is a girl who exhibits characteristics or behavior considered typical of a boy. They are associated with sports, the outdoors, video games, skateboarding, surfing, cars, traditionally masculine activities, and LGBTQ+ culture. On the wiki page, it says that butch and stud are synonyms along with broho, but I'd argue that these terms aren't interchangeable. A butch is a lesbian who has a masculine gender expression, and this is often an important part of their identity. A stud is a butch who is African American and or Latina. Butches and studs may or may not also identify as tomboys, but the terms aren't interchangeable because being a tomboy doesn't necessarily have anything to do with sexual orientation. And I honestly have no clue what a broho is because I've never heard that term before. Okay, so this is Pixelian from the future. A broho is a more sexualized version of the tomboy aesthetic described as Mick Bling, but with more edgy and masculine elements. Brohos are usually defined as girls who hang around guys who dirt bike and or are tattoo artists. Because of the edgy element to broho, there is some crossover with the scene aesthetic as well, although broho doesn't go as over the top and edgy as scene does. This is a wiki page that was added, like, after I wrote this script, so yeah, now I know what it is. Yay. Femboy, also known as a tokonoko, tomgirl, calico girl, girly boy, or sissy aesthetic, is basically the direct opposite of tomboy, a feminine boy with a key defining feature being contrasting gender signifiers. They are also called rose boys, but this term seems to be disliked by a lot of the community. A girly girl, also referred to as girly or hyperfeminine, is pretty self-explanatory. It's just a girl who enjoys things that are stereotypically girly. Common motifs are floral prints, pastel colors, ruffles and lace, bows and ribbons, flowy silhouettes, cute and whimsical details, delicate jewelry, and sweet and feminine makeup. Basic girl, also known as the basic white girl, common white girl, trendy white girl, or basic bitch, is an aesthetic originating from the 80s that is pretty self-explanatory. It's the stereotype of a girl who is usually depicted as white and participates in mainstream trends and doesn't make an effort to stand out. Basic has become a bit of an insult over the years, so I really wouldn't recommend calling someone this unless you have crazy beef with them or something. Common motifs are Starbucks cups, Ugg boots, yoga pants, Jeeps, selfies, duck faces, manicures, dyed blonde hair, Birkenstocks, top 40 hits, Taylor Swift, Stanley Cups, iPhones, and romantic comedies. I'd say some of these are a bit outdated though, because duck faces and Ugg boots are definitely more of a 2010s thing. Party animal is an aesthetic focused on parties and having fun. I put it here because it's also kind of a stereotype. It's characterized by recklessness, friendship, and wild fun. Skater, skato, or skatercore centers around skateboarding and the culture surrounding it. Some things associated with skaters are graffiti, the fisheye lens, jeans, flat-bottom shoes, and X Games. A skater girl is a girl who skates for the enjoyment of it, and it also has a fashion aspect which consists of baggy jeans or cargo pants, loose jeans, flat-bottom shoes, baggy shirts, and layering long-sleeve shirts under oversized t-shirts. Soft skater girl combines the softy aesthetic with the skater girl aesthetic and is associated with skater skirts and tennis skirts, jean shorts, loose jeans, tank tops or t-shirts, crop tops, tall socks, cute backpacks or bum bags, Converse, protective gear, and cute stickers. Surfers are people who partake in riding waves as sport. They're associated with Hawaiian flower prints, surfboards, and waves. A theater kid or a thespian is someone who really likes acting and stage productions. However, contrary to popular belief, it's not just limited to actors. Theater kids can also be part of the ensemble or the crew. Key motifs are playbills, performance shoes, costumes, lavalier microphones, stage lights, auditoriums, and scripts. Stoner, also known as substance core, substance culture, potheads, druggies, or tokers, is an aesthetic revolving around cannabis. If you're a stoner, it means you enjoy consuming cannabis, weed, pot, the Mary Jane, whatever you want to call it, and you consume it on a regular basis. The stoner aesthetic consists of meditation, cracking jokes, laughing, chilling out with friends, using drugs, enjoying life, and eating an excessive amount of junk food. Dark culture, schwarze Szene, or dark alternative scene is an umbrella term encompassing various alternative subcultures and fashion styles linked by shared themes and aesthetics, most commonly the color black, and is commonly associated with alternative music genres. Sorry about how I pronounced that, I do not speak German. These genres broadly include, but are not limited to, goth, dark wave, dark neoclassical/dark ambient, parts of the post-industrial scene, including electro-industrial, EBM, agro-tech, and dark electro, neo-folk, and the early gothic metal scene. It also includes fashion and subcultures inspired by the Victorian and medieval eras, such as gothic and steampunk, the bondage scene, and more. Furry or furry fandom is a subculture originating in the 80s consisting of fans of anthropomorphic animals who may or may not make or wear fursuits. While fursuits and furry characters in the West typically have a more Western, cartoony style, there is a Japanese equivalent to the Western furry fandom called kemono, in which the characters and fursuits have a more anime style to them. E-girl, short for electronic girl, is a subculture from the 2010s of girls who quote-unquote only exist online. It became a stereotype that these women try to receive internet fame by being sexually attractive. Motifs are social media, gaming, Japanese or Korean pop culture imagery, kawaii mascots, especially Kuromi, check patterns, desaturated color palettes, characters and visuals from gaming culture, eyeliner and heavy makeup, alternative music scene visual trends, neon lights, energy drinks, cursive or gothic fonts, and eyeliner hearts on cheeks. E-boy, short for electronic boy, is obviously seen as the male counterpart to e-girl. It's described as a darker version of the soft boy aesthetic and close to modern-day grunge with an emphasis on electronics. Motifs consist of addiction and sad themes, chains, emo rap / trap metal / mainstream funk artists and bands, self-made temporary tattoos, chipped black nail polish, asymmetrical earrings, split-dyed hair, curtained hair with a middle part, androgynous fashion, and shopping at thrift stores and Hot Topic. Oh, Visco girls, remember them? That was weird. I don't think they even exist anymore, but if you don't know, Visco girl was a trend and stereotype in the late 2010s consisting of girls who are preppy but laid back, and they're often seen as the yin to the e-girl's yang. They're associated with hydro flasks, TikTok, the Save the Turtles movement, scrunchies, Fjallraven Konkin backpacks, oversized shirts, Nike shorts, and socks and sandals. Visco preppy, preppy visco, or TikTok preppy is a style focused on bright colors like pink and blue and animal patterns like cheetah, giraffe, and leopard print, and is popular with Gen Z and older Gen Alpha girls. A biker, also known as a motorbiker or outlaw biker, is a stereotype and subculture originating from the 50s that centers around motorcycles and the culture associated with them. Some common motifs are leather, smoking, revving, violence, sex, and motorcycles. Pretty badass. Greaser, also called bikercore, biker culture, or workcore, was a 1950s youth subculture popularized predominantly by working class and lower class teenagers and young adults in the United States. Key motifs are pompadour hair, leather jackets or jean jackets, t-shirts, cuffed up pants or denim pants, boots, feminine scarves, sunglasses, delinquency, youth, cigarettes, switchblades, souped up cars, and motorcycles. 80s heartthrob refers to the style and essence of the popular male heartthrob actors of the 1980s. If you didn't know, the official definition of a heartthrob is a male celebrity who is known for his good looks. The Yakuza, Kokudo, Japanese Mafia, Ninkyo Dantai, or Boryokuden are members of transnational organized crime syndicates originating in Japan associated with tattoos, weapons, suits, face masks, and formal clothing. Femme fatale, also known as seductress, vixen, temptress, vamp, siren, enchantress, charmer, or dark feminine, is an aesthetic and character trope originating from the 1940s, referring to a mysterious, intelligent, beautiful, and seductive woman whose charms ensnare anyone who meets her, often leading them into deadly traps and webs of crime. Key values are mystery, intelligence, beauty, seduction, and power. Honestly, I don't blame any fictional characters who have been tricked by femme fatales. If I met one, shit would be over for me in 5 seconds, let me tell you that much. Why did I write that in my script? Playboy revolves around the aesthetics of the jet-setting playboy lifestyle and is also associated with wealth and luxury. The homme fatale is a male variant of the femme fatale that takes the old spy movie aesthetic to the extreme. Key motifs are guns, cocktails, women, hitmen, and criminality. Wall Street takes the hedonistic lifestyle and ramps it up to max while also keeping a strong hustle culture. A gentleman playboy is a man who attends lavish black tie parties and sporting events and is often surrounded by beautiful women. Dark playboy leans into the more sinister and narcissistic side of the playboy aesthetic. A character in a story that fits this subgenre may only care about wealth and power and does not care about how they get said wealth and power. American Psycho is a good example of this. The foreigner playboy is a non-white wealthy man from a non-Western country, typically India, Africa, or the Middle East. Yuppie, young urban professional, or young upwardly mobile professional are high-class or middle-class, predominantly white young people with university studies and ambitious career pursuits associated with corporate attire, power dressing, and preppy influences. A flapper, or garçon, I think that's how it's pronounced, is a young Western woman from the 20s who embraced a free lifestyle and engaged in smoking, drinking, casual sex, and driving automobiles, all of which were seen as unusual and rebellious for women at the time. They were also known to wear quote-unquote short skirts, which really just means knee length, have above shoulder-length hair, and listen to jazz music. A hipster is stereotypically a young adult who resides in a gentrified neighborhood and flaunts non-mainstream fashion and lifestyles and holds pacifist and green views. They are associated with vintage, bikes, and music, which is pretty broad, but I think you get the idea. Cutester is a fusion of the hipster and kidcore aesthetics with more of a focus on being cute. A fixed gear hipster or fixie hipster is a hipster that rides fixed gear bicycles. Magical Girl or Maho Shoujo originates from the 1960s and describes girls coming of age and possessing power through their femininity rather than by rejecting it, as female heroes previously were depicted as very masculine. This is most often depicted in anime and manga aimed towards young girls. Transformation magic, color-coded costumes, youth, and coming of age are key parts in this aesthetic. The cybervillain aesthetic centers around shared traits amongst villains in cartoons that have a cybernetic or science fiction motif in the story. Common motifs are sharp edges, thin waists, lack of mouths, over-the-top personalities, and evil laughs. The queer villainy aesthetic is focused on flamboyancy, sex and gender positivity, and anarchic philosophies. It originally began as a reclaiming of queer-coded villains. A girl next door is a girl who appears to be all-American with the allure of purity, simplicity, and charm, along with a natural, modest, or effortless beauty. The article doesn't include this, but I've also seen the term be used to refer to female characters in media who are neighbors of the main characters, thus being literal girls next door. Pastels, light colors, and airy fabrics are associated with this aesthetic. Bimbo core, also known as bimbo doll, dirty Y2K, or bimbo Barbie core, is an aesthetic originating from the 2020s that revolves around the stereotype of a bimbo, although the word bimbo goes back way further than the 2020s. Bimbo core is described as body positivity for women and a pink doll-like charm. It's related to bimbofication, which has two definitions. The first is a BDSM kink in which someone is consensually turned into a stereotypical airheaded slut. The second is a feminist movement among Gen Z that aims to reclaim the term and focuses on adopting a hyper-feminine style and pretending to be a dumb bimbo to manipulate men. Once again, bimbo is definitely not something you should call someone because it implies that they're unintelligent. Moving on. Pink Pilates Princess. So you're probably wondering, what the heck is that? Why is it placed so high? It's defined as a girl who spends her time working out, making green juices and smoothies, and chugs green tea every night. Yeah, that's why it's placed so high. Key motifs are hyperfeminine athleisure, green juice, face masks, Lululemon, matcha, leg warmers, silky pajamas, Pilates, self-care and wellness, lip oils, Uggs, wired headphones, and Victoria's Secret. Similarly, That Girl is an aesthetic emerging from the early 2020s that centers around women who show images and videos of themselves being productive and engaging in self-care. Tidy spaces, healthy foods, beverages such as water, coffee, and matcha green tea are key motifs. Live-action roleplay, or LARP, is a subculture that emerged in the late 1970s. It consists of people who physically portray their own characters and partake in collaborative fictional settings, which involve highly elaborate costumes, props, and in-game rules to guide their interactions and shape the narrative. There are many aesthetics associated with live-action roleplay designed to evoke a specific time period, genre, or theme. Some of the most common settings within this practice include historical, most notably medieval, fantasy, or sci-fi, but it can also encompass any other genre of fiction or historical era. Other types of LARP include Nordic, horror, and more. It's basically just playing pretend as a kid, but more advanced and with grown adults instead. That may sound cringe to you, but I honestly am jealous of how much fun these people must be having. Neko, also known as Catgirl, Catboy, and Cat People in the West, refers to cat people in anime and manga, usually cute characters with cat ears and tails, but they can have other features like paws or whiskers. Fluffiness, bows and ribbons, bells, gloves, stockings, frills, paws, and maid cafes are associated with this aesthetic. Catboy, or male Neko, specifically refers to the male equivalent of Neko, since Nekos are usually female. This was really popular in quarantine for some reason. Chav, Chavy, Chavette, Charver, Scally, or Roadman refers to the working to lower class people in the United Kingdom and Ireland, although it since has become a term to refer to anyone perceived as loutish, violent, and antisocial. In Scotland, they're called Neds, in Ireland, they're called Skangers or Knackers, and in Northern Ireland, they're called Smicks. I apologize if any of those words are actually really offensive in those countries. I have no idea if they are, but they do kind of sound like slurs. Mary Sue is a term originating from the 70s that refers to a fictional girl or young woman that is portrayed as flawless, quirky, and overpowered, and sometimes may have a tragic backstory with romanticized elements. The male equivalent is Gary Stu, and the polar opposite is an anti-Sue. Otaku is a Japanese subculture of geeky or nerdy individuals who love anime, manga, and video games. Weeaboo, weeb, Wapanese, or Japanophile is often confused for otaku. While otakus typically are Japanese themselves, weeaboo is a term associated with Western fans of anime and the culture surrounding them. It often has a negative connotation, with the implication that the weeaboo is not knowledgeable of real Japan and is more so infatuated with the rose-tinted glasses version presented through popular culture. Metrosexual refers to heterosexual men who take pleasure in engaging in fashion and activities considered stereotypically queer. Those men demonstrate a keen attention to grooming and appearance, also dedicating considerable time and resources to shopping for fashion. Yandere or yanderecore is an aesthetic centered around a specific Japanese character trope. Derived from the Japanese words yanderu, to be mentally ill, and deredere, which means lovey-dovey, yandere describes a character archetype with an unhealthy love-related obsession that often results in violent outbreaks triggered by unrequited love or disappointment. Doomer is an internet subculture starting in the late 2010s that revolves around a pessimistic, nihilistic point of view with a focus on urbanism and other global problems. The music genre associated with it is called Doomerwave. Common motifs are decaying places, urbanism, gloomy filters, devastated war zones, and Wojak characters. I briefly dabbled in this community when I was super depressed in my freshman year of high school, and it definitely just made me even more depressed. Would not recommend. Gyaru, or gal, is a Japanese subculture originating from the mid-1990s that originally started as a rebellion against the traditional Asian beauty standards of being pale and not showing much skin. Exaggerated makeup, big lashes, curly hair, hair dye, animal prints, and over-accessorizing are key motifs of this aesthetic. Neo-Gyaru was an attempt to revitalize the Gyaru style in the late 2010s that was completely shunned by the Gyaru community because they felt it wasn't accurate to the original style. Gyaro is the masculine counterpart to Gyaru, which takes inspiration from many other aesthetics, especially American ones, such as military, rock, biker, American casual, surfer, adult, and sentagai. I honestly have no clue what adult is referring to. Kogo, Kogyaru, or Heisei Gyaru are younger members of the Gyaru subculture who still have to wear a school uniform due to being students. They are associated with loose socks, heavy makeup, and dekoden. Oni Gyaru, or Onike, is a more mature, grown-up, and mainstream version of the Gyaru style associated with body-hugging dresses and an adult look. Onike, but spelled O-N-I-I as opposed to O-N-E-E like the last one, literally translates to older brother style and is the male counterpart of Uni Gyaru. It combines the American casual, Italian casual, and rocker styles to create a slick look and is associated with white tailored jackets, low-necked tank tops, imported jeans, pointed shoes, and wolf cuts. Hime Gyaru literally translates to princess gal. It focuses on being cute and innocent, creating the princess element of the style. There are a lot of soft colors as well as big hair and very decorative over-the-top nails and accessories. Common elements of the style include large beehive-styled hair, often with curls, bleached or dyed brown hair, long nails often with heavy decoration, pink and white clothing, sweet patterns like flowers or gingham, and heavy decoration on accessories such as cell phones, lace and bows, and also oversized hair accessories. Hime Kaji, or casual princess, is a more casual interpretation of Hime Gyaru. Key motifs are girly fashion, lace, and floral patterns like cherry blossoms. Skinhead is a subculture that started in the 1960s consisting of working-class youths in London. The group became very divided into far-left and far-right skinheads, and as such, the media and general public generally views skinheads as being associated with racism and neo-Nazism. This is why sharp, skinheads against prejudice, is a thing. Moe, moreru, moe-core, or cute anime girl refers to anime and manga visuals that lean towards cuteness and innocence and is associated with kawaii themes in otaku culture. Moe anthropomorphism, or gajinka characters, is when non-human animals, inanimate objects, consumer products, or abstract concepts are presented as a cute human character. Club Kids refers to a group of young New York City dance club personalities from the 80s. In the Club Kids article on the wiki, it is said that several Club Kids have made long-lasting contributions to mainstream art and fashion, even in the present day. In many ways, the vast majority of the aesthetics on the Aesthetics Wiki owe their very existence to the Club Kids of the 1980s. Common themes and motifs include outrageousness, fabulousness, sex, gender fluidity, and DIY culture. A buckle bunny is a young woman who idolizes rodeo stars. The name comes from the belt buckles that are rodeo prizes that the rodeo winners will give to them if they like them enough. They are considered groupies and get criticized by country women for being fake. Common motifs are rodeos, plaid, and Western imagery with a feminine twist. Dandy or dandyism is an aesthetic from the 1790s that refers to middle-class men who are heavily connected with fashion and their physical appearance and pretended to lead aristocratic lifestyles and use refined language. Some key themes are perfection, obsession with aesthetics, boredom, and dissatisfaction. So basically Gatsby. Southern Belle, which is also called Georgia Peach, but specifically if you're from Georgia, is an aesthetic emerging from the 1850s that is common in the American South and is associated with upper-class white women. Key motifs are big poofy dresses, large hats, parasols, large plantation houses, immense lawns, brightly colored flowers, peaches, cotton fields, and Spanish moss. Tectonic, also known as TCK, Tectonic Dancer, Killer/Kilius, Milky Way, Electro Dance, and Vertigo is a major trend, movement, and subculture originating in the 2000s in France, with a specific music and dance style associated with it. Eagles, stars, checkers, stripes, LED lights, and skulls are also associated with Tectonic. Dead Inside, or ZXC Ghoul, refers to young people who play— this can't be real. That's not a thing, is it? That's not a— I don't think that's a real aesthetic. It is? Oh my goodness. That's crazy. Dead Inside, or ZXC Ghoul, refers to young people who play the computer game Dota 2, watch anime, and position themselves as depressed, sad, and disappointed in life at their young age. Key motifs are depression, misanthropy, self-importance, and anime. Weirdly specific in my opinion, but okay. Real-life superhero RLSH, or Hero K, centers around dressing up like a comic book character and doing general good deeds. I actually was part of a niche internet community on Instagram where everyone roleplayed as superheroes and supervillains a year or two ago, and it was really goofy. There's actually a video about it. A mall ninja is someone who boasts about weapons and being quote-unquote badass despite a lack of proficiency. Jirake, or PNK, literally translates to landmine type. It's a more recent Japanese stereotype of cute, hyper-feminine women who dress in darker fashion styles and have personalities that do not match their appearance, being violent and obsessive instead of cute and sweet. They are associated with self-harm, drinking, and smoking. Key motifs are heavy filters and edits to photos, virtual stickers, face and body editing, violent imagery such as razors, box cutters, and knives, fake guns, alcohol and energy drinks, pills and syringes, Kuromi and My Melody, and more. Motomami aesthetic, derived from Rosalia's album of the same name, fuses elements of Y2K and biker styles. This aesthetic has had a notable impact on fashion and music in Spanish-speaking social media, exploring themes of transformation and female empowerment through a mix of rebellious and feminine fashion, motorcycling imagery, and experimental music. Motorbiking, scribbled text and symbols, cultural diversity, butterflies, stars, and cyberpunk helmets are key motifs. Pink Motomami is the same thing, but using the color pink instead of red, and Moto Poppy is the masculine equivalent. Older brother core, or older brother in the 2000s, revolves around stereotypical traits associated with older brothers in the early 2000s to the early 2010s. Gaming, skating, graffiti, soda, and energy drinks are associated with this aesthetic. This is just a theory, but I have a feeling the reason that this aesthetic is even a thing is because of the popularity of Roderick from the Diary of a Wimpy Kid movies. I don't know, maybe I'm crazy. Void punk is a punk subculture created in the 2010s, I think on Tumblr, but I'm not 100% sure. It centers around the idea of reclaiming dehumanization or demonization faced as a marginalized minority, whether directly or indirectly. Inhumanity, mystery, alienation, and nonconformity are key values of this aesthetic. People who participate in this subculture may or may not have a void sona, that is some sort of non-human creature meant to represent them. These next ones are all going to be associated with specific countries, and a lot of them revolve around gangs and lower class groups. Casuals are a subculture within football characterized by the use of high-priced designer clothing and participation in hooliganism. This group is often referred to as dressers rather than casuals, with regional terms like Perry Boys, Trendies, and Scallies also used. The subculture originated in the United Kingdom during the late 1970s. Key motifs are designer sportswear, Italian designer brands, European sportswear, high-end casual wear, and smart attire. Chicano lowrider, or just lowriders, refers to a community of Mexican-American people from LA starting in the 40s who are centered around a type of customized car that contain pinstripes, murals, and customized wheels, which are primarily Dayton wire wheels. Cholo is a term originated from the 30s that describes a young man belonging to a Mexican-American urban subculture associated with street gangs. The female equivalent is a chola, and older cholos are called vertanos or fatanas. Or maybe it means that that's an older term, I'm not sure. Chonga is a movement from the 1980s centered around the idea of empowering working-class Latin American women in the United States and promoting sexual liberation. Women who participated in it are stereotyped as being sassy and emotional while having a strong and independent attitude. Bold, expressive, and potentially suggestive fashion is a key part of this aesthetic. Vloggers are a subculture closely related to Fotolog.com, a website where photos are uploaded and where its users can comment on them. Vlogger culture originated in Argentina in 2007 and spread to Latin America. Agustina Vivero, better known as Cumbio, was the undisputed queen of the vloggers. Vloggers typically wore bright-colored pants, loose V-neck shirts, canvas or Converse shoes, and had long hair with bangs that partially or fully covered the eyes, similar to emo and scene hairstyles from the same era. Jijimin is a subculture originating from the 2010s in the Philippines, characterized by altered spelling and grammar, typically observed in text messages and social media, often combined with funky fashion and hairstyles inspired by scene kids and wannabe gangsters. It's associated with scene elements, stylish caps, paisley patterns, jerseys, flannels, big glasses, and the emo hairstyle. La Cep, also known as the Society of Ambiencers and Elegant People, or Cepers, is a subculture from the 1920s centered on the cities of Kinshasa and Brazzaville in the Democratic Republic of Congo and the Republic of Congo, respectively. The name comes from the French slang word sep, which means clothes or dressed up. It's associated with elegance and beauty. Crocha, or netlog styler, is a short-lived youth subculture from Austria, primarily prevalent in Vienna during the late 2000s. This youth culture was notable for its music taste involving genres like trance, jump style, and other subgenres of techno. Another distinct element was their fashion style, characterized by Palestinian scarves, tanned skin, caps, and shaved hairstyles with patterns. They also made up their own words, drawing inspiration from Viennese slang and immigrant languages. This subculture was mainly popular among teenagers and focused on self-expression, consumerism, and fun with no explicit values or beliefs held among members. Mandrake, Maloqueiro, Maloca, Noia, Mandraka, Cria, Funkeiro, Funkeira, or Chave is a Brazilian subculture that is mainly composed of low-income teenagers and young adults participating in the carioca funk culture. It's currently associated with a peculiar sense of style and an attitude of readiness, sometimes developing into impulsiveness to face challenges and prosper financially in life, be it by intense hustling, illegal activities, mainly drug dealing, or both. A mandrake tends to have a certain zeal for his appearance and tries to keep well-groomed or wear good clothes and accessories when out. This subculture's fashion sense values football club t-shirts, ball caps, mirrored sunglasses, gold/silver chains, watches, mustaches, striped eyebrows, earrings, shorts, running sneakers, and tattoos. Key motifs are poverty and luxury, jewelry, eroticism, abuse, and violence. Milipili, or chetas, with the male variant being tinchos, is an aesthetic and subculture from Argentina consisting of teenage girls who self-identify as with the beauty standard of hyper-skinny bodies and anything that is considered desirable or successful in mainstream fashion. Ripped clothing and skinny jeans are common. Mine. Okay, mine. I typed it into Google Translate and it said twink. Mines, also known as Mines du Drugstore, Bande du Drugstore, or Blusendores, were a Parisian youth subculture from the 60s consisting primarily of young men from affluent backgrounds who rejected societal norms and embraced English and American cultural influences. Mines primarily gathered at the drugstore Publicis or the Champs Elysees, hence the name. This establishment was an innovation at the time as it simultaneously functioned as a pharmacy, newsstand, record store, and a late-night restaurant. The Mines frequented it to read magazines, listen to music, socialize, or simply to be seen. Once again, sorry about people who speak other languages. I've been butchering all of them. In my defense, I've been Googling how to pronounce all of these names, and there are not that many resources for it. Mod has its roots in a small group of stylish, London-based young men in the late 1950s who were termed modernist because they listened to modern jazz. Peacock Revolution, Swinging London, Freak Beat, Soft Mod, Peacock Mod, Smooth Mod, or British Invasion describes a fashion movement and subculture that peaked in the mid to late 1960s, based most prominently around men incorporating feminine fashion elements such as floral prints, bright colors, complex patterns, and longer hairstyles on men. The movement originated from the mod-driven Swinging London subculture typified by pop art, Carnaby Street, boutiques, psychedelia, and discotheques, developing into a more bohemian style and becoming associated with psychedelic music in the early hippie movement. The Peacock Revolution was embraced by popular rock acts from 1966 to 68, including the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, Cream, and Small Faces. Key motifs are feminine male fashion, tight silhouettes, bright patterns, long hair, makeup, unconventional textiles like corduroy, paisley, brocade, and etc., bright colors, vivid patterns, embroidery, and more. Paninaro, with the plural form being paninari, is a northern Italian youth subculture that originated in Milan during the early 1980s. This societal phenomenon began during a period of economic prosperity in Italy, which led to consumerism among younger generations. Members of the subculture were relatively young and glorified designer clothes and motorbikes as status symbols, lived in a consumerist lifestyle, and often congregated in fast food restaurants and bars. Pio, Postu, or Cayetano is a fashion-based subculture and urban tribe from the 70s in Spain, characterized by their wealthy outfits, youthful interests, and high-class social status. It sometimes is also used as a derogatory term for wealthy, conservative, high-class people. Common motifs are diamond-shaped patterns, designer labels, and symbols such as the Spanish flag and bulls. Pokémones were formerly known as HXitos. On the wiki, this aesthetic is just called Pokemon with the accent mark and everything, but that's confusing, so I'm just gonna call it Pokemones because that's what the members of the subculture are called. Pokemones is an urban tribe and subculture in Chile consisting of teenagers who pretended to lead sad lives despite being happy and extroverted. Polka dots, stripes, anime-themed hairstyles, piercing, and elements from various subcultures are key motifs. Popper, also called Snob in Austria, is a youth subculture that emerged in West Germany in the 1980s with its origins tracing back to Hamburg high schools in 1979. They were teenagers primarily from middle to upper class backgrounds who distinguished themselves through a conscious embrace of conformity, materialism, and lack of a political stance. This rejected the critique of consumerism seen in preceding countercultural movements. They rebelled against rebellion itself. Key motifs are displays of wealth, polo shirts, sailing shoes, cashmere pullovers, carrot pants, and college shoes. Raxet, also known as Recheta or Neochone, is a Spanish subculture surrounding women who combine sophisticated fashion elements such as jewelry or shiny nails with urban ones like tracksuits, fanny packs, and slippers, and it aims to mix sophistication with urbanism. Sharpies, not to be confused with the Sharp movement, which is skinheads against racial prejudice, are members of suburban youth gangs in Australia that were frustrated and rebellious and often came from working-class households. Styliagi is a Russian youth counterculture from the 1940s distinguished by snappy, foreign clothing that contrasted heavily with the communist realities of the time. Sukeban centers around rebellious girl gangs in Japan starting in the 1960s, with customized school uniforms being a key motif. Swinka is a subculture of working-class Zulu men in South Africa who participate in amateur competitions that are part fashion show and part choreography. Teddy boys, Teds, or Teddies, with the female counterpart being Teddy girls, was a British subculture in the 1950s led by working-class teens, many of which were involved in gangs. Oshi culture, oshitaku, wotaku, or idol otaku is a Japanese subculture dedicated to celebrating both real and fictional idols. Ryu Sangata Wota is derived from the observation that female Wota are known for posting pictures of themselves attending live events dressed in elaborate girly K outfits, often to the point where many of them look seemingly identical in groups. Ryo Sangata means mass-produced.
And with that, we are finally done with this category. Thank you so much for making it this far. Also, sorry about my fan in the background. It is hot as fuck in my room all the time, especially since it's August, and I cannot be asked to turn it off. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. I'm sorry if this video was a little boring. Hopefully the next one will be more interesting because it's going to be about different fashion styles, so that'll be pretty fun, hopefully. This video took so freaking long to make, just all the editing and the script and everything. So hopefully the next one won't take as long to make, but I did have so much fun making it, so I'm going to make the next one no matter what. It just might take, I don't know, months, another year, I don't know. But with that being said, I hope you had fun and learned as much as I did, and I'll see you in the next one.